Hello, and welcome to this week's Black Mental Health is Black Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn Lucas, the transformational therapist, here to help you think of ways to or develop ways to positively transform your life into a better something. Well, we always begin the show with some deep breathing. Why? We might need that moment just to decompress, a moment just to woosah. Deep breathing puts more oxygen in your brain, oxygen flowing through your body, and helps you um, just feel better. So let's take in some deep breaths. Are you ready? I'll say breathe in and I'll count to the count of four very slowly because I want you to breathe in as I count to the count of four. I'll be counting slow because I want you to breathe in and breathe out slowly. So let's get started. Breathe in, two, three, four. Breathe out, two, three, four. Breathe in, two, three, four. Breathe out. Two, three, four. One more in. Two, three, four. Out. Two, three, four. Just that moment of woosah to help you breathe and maybe feel a little better. I always like to remind you that's something you can do anytime, day or night, and sometime we might need it. Maybe you just need to woosah in the middle of the day. You're driving in traffic and it's more than you want. Take that time to just woosah and breathe. It's so good for you. Now, tonight's topic might have some of you needing to breathe as you listen in. I am planning for the show to be a little shorter tonight. We'll see how that works out. Because tonight, if you've seen the card, is all about family and forgiveness. Some of the hardest people to forgive can be family because family can hurt you in a way that other people can't. If I don't love you or expect that I should love you and you should love me, then you don't hurt me as much. But family, wow. We believe that our family should be there. We believe that love should be there because we have a bond, we have a connection. This is our families. Now, families are made up of just people. Therefore, every family is flawed because we're all flawed. We all have issues, we all have stuff going on. But families are ours. So tonight I want to look at just this whole relationship about families and examine forgiveness. And I'm kind of looking at this from the point of view of adult family relationships. Is a perspective I'm taking tonight. But as I said, family is somebody you expect to be there for you. But that's not always the case. And for some people, when I even mention the topic that you should forgive your family, they're like, no, that can't happen. And we're going to look at a few kinds of hurts, and maybe you'll see why people are like, no, I don't think so. That's just not going to happen. But we want to talk about it from that point of view of just hurt and how to heal hurt. So you see, forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. Forgiveness is about you freeing yourself up from the hate, the harm, the hurt that you're holding in. And we're going to talk about just that whole idea. But first, just look at some things in families that might put you in a spot where forgive them. I don't think so. So I have a list of some things I want to just throw out that might be things that will cause a person to say, I can't forgive. But then we're going to double back and look at why you might need to. Let's start with the most obvious. What if you grew up with an abusive or just mean parent and they were physically, emotionally abusive? It could be one, the other, or both. But that might be because of their unresolved hurt from their childhood. It may be generational, and we're going to end talking about that. Um, They may not have resolved their issues, or you're like, they didn't have an issue, they just mean. But for whatever reason, that person could have been abusive. That parent could be abusive. That's a hard thing to overcome. Maybe they were verbally abusive. Maybe they called you something other than your name every day. Maybe they were physically abusive or just emotionally abusive. Hard to forgive. What if it's the absent parent? Now, the absent parent could be the parent who's just not in your life. Maybe there was divorce. Maybe the parent just left. And we think about the absent father, but they're absent mothers as well. The parent who just leaves. And you're left to wonder, did I do something wrong? Was I such a horrible person that my own family, my own parents had to leave me? So the awesome parent, absent parent, hard to forgive. What if you perceived yourself as not being the favorite child? And what if it was true? In some families, sometimes it is true. It's like one parent may love one child more than the other. And if you're not that loved child, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's hard to imagine, why don't you love me? You love them. Maybe you're the one that had to take care of everybody and take care of siblings, and you weren't able to get what you needed because you were so caught up in having to take care of them. That might be hard to forgive. What if it's not a parent you have the issue with? What if it was an abusive sibling and they were allowed to do it, which is a parent issue and a sibling issue? What if there was an issue with the sibling in adult life? Some that I can think come to mind. What if your sibling married your ex and they started dating before you broke up? Kind of hard to do. So there's so many different types of things that can go awry when it's a sibling. What if there were divorce issues and it was an ugly divorce and the parents used the child as a battering ram in the divorce? Everybody's hurt in that situation. What if there were families that just didn't have proper boundaries? They were overly enmeshed, too much in each other's lives, where it's like, I can't breathe. I can't get away from this. Or what if they were just too far? Do whatever you want, whenever, whatever, and you didn't have a sense of safety and you grew up feeling insecure because of that. And maybe you want to blame them. After all, they created that monster. Or maybe they were so rigid. This is the rule. This is the line. You're going to walk this line. If you don't walk this line, you're in trouble. So overly rigid that it's just as bad as not having any rules at all. And it made you grow up some kind of way, and now you are uncomfortable with who you are. And man, that's the parents' fault. Maybe you were the ignored child, just or ignored your issues when you came to say, I'm depressed. No, you're not. Really? You're going to tell me I'm not. I'm depressed because of the way you are treating me. Or what if it was a family member who had mental illness, be it a parent, be it a sibling, and it was untreated mental illness, and they treated you a certain way because of their mental illness? Or what if it was treated mental illness and it was acknowledged and owned up to, but they still treated you a certain way, be it a parent, be it a sibling? What if there's just family trauma? And then there's generational trauma. And as African Americans in America, we face generational trauma based on things such as racial trauma. That's one we face. And that can play different parts in our families. We can have issues with family based on skin tone. You might be too light. You might be too dark. Maybe you're the light one in the family. Maybe you're the dark one in the family. Maybe one sibling was darker than you or lighter than you, and you were berated and made to put down because of that other one. And that might be a generational thing. Um, or maybe you grew up in poverty and the impacts of poverty on your family were very negative. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. There's so many things. There's so many more. That's just, about 8 or 10 things that could cause hurt. Basically, how you were treated in the family. You were treated a certain way and it did not feel good. It didn't make you feel loved. It made you feel insecure, not as good as. Made you not love yourself because if my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother don't love me, who will? They're my family. They know me better than anybody else. They've known me all my life and they don't love me. That's hard. When I first started thinking about this topic, it was because I was speaking with someone and we were talking about the holidays and family and how difficult that could be. But I said this, if you have issues with your family in December, you've got issues with your family in June. Family issues are not just in the holidays. They may be highlighted in the holidays when people try to get together and maybe you want to ignore certain things because we just got to come together because it's Christmas and we have to be all happy and be together and you're the one that I'm not happy. This was an abusive home growing up. Why do I want to come and put my feet under your table and smile as if everything's okay? But I do it and I've done it for years. But each time it eats away at me to do it. So I'm not doing it anymore. Unresolved hurt. The longer we hold on to that hurt, the deeper it gets. It is not out of sight, out of mind. It is not time healing old wounds. It doesn't. Time just makes the wound deeper, maybe deeper in there, but it doesn't heal it. You have to deal with it. So if you were the person who was wronged as a child, why would you want to forgive? As I said, if you were abused, why do I want to forgive my abuser? Please, I didn't do anything. They abused me. if if it was a divorce and the parents divorced you or it was an absent parent, I didn't leave, they did. Why do I need to forgive them? If it was trauma, ongoing trauma, and someone else caused it, why do I need to forgive them? Well, let me tell you why. First, let's define forgiveness. There's so many different ways to look at it, so I want to give you a few. And as I said, first and foremost, forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. It's about you freeing up you to be a better you. So I'm forgiving you to free myself up. I love myself enough to say, I'm forgiving you. So one definition of forgiveness is to stop feeling angry or resentful toward someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. You stop the anger and resentfulness. Another is offering something positive, such as empathy, compassion, and understanding toward the person that hurt you. Let me read that one again because that's a hard one. You can offer something positive, you can offer empathy, compassion, understanding toward the person that hurt you? I don't think so. Hmm. That element makes forgiveness both a virtue and a powerful construct in positive psychology, saying, but I'm doing it for me. So even though you're offering them empathy, compassion, understanding, it's freeing you up. As I said, let's dive into that a little more. Forgiveness is about you. When you forgive somebody, you're not saying that what they did is fine. Oh, it's okay. No, by no means. You're not excusing them. What you are is saying that I am freeing myself up from the burden of holding on to this hurt, this pain. I'm allowing myself to begin the healing process because if you were hurt, you need to be healed. Think about it if it was a physical hurt. If you cut your finger, it's hurt. You hurt your finger. It needs to heal to be better. If you are hurt emotionally, you need to heal to be better. With emotional hurt, it won't just go away. There is no band-aid you can put on it that is going to help. You can't put a little antiseptic on that emotional hurt and say, okay, I'll cover with a band-aid in a few days, it'll be better. No, it has to be dealt with. So when you forgive that person, you are saying, I love me enough to say, I got to let you go. So what does that look like? Well, first, let's a few more benefits to forgiving. Um, it's not just psychological. There are physiological effects to forgiving. When we are in that state of unforgiveness, there's that anger that goes with it. If I don't forgive you, I'm still mad at you. Whatever. I see you, I think about you, and my mood changes. When that happens, you have actually given that person a lot of control in your life. How do they have control? Every time you think about them, if you get mad just because you thought about them, guess what? They just altered your mood. Because I was good and then I thought, I saw something that reminded me of them. Well, if that's the case, you're allowing that person to change your mood. One way to look at it, do I want someone who gets on my nerves, and at this point they do, to be in control of my mood? I don't even like you and I'm letting you control my mood? Wow, that's a lot. The person that you don't like, the person that gets on your nerves, has the power to change your mood. Do they need that kind of power? They don't. But when you're holding on to that anger, that's what you're doing. There's some other things about anger and unforgiveness that studies, and these are studies that have shown that when you're in that constant state of anger and that constant state of just that unforgiveness and the negativity that goes along with it internally, it can make changes in your heart rate, your blood pressure, your immune system can all be impacted by all of the negativity that you're holding on inside of you. As I said, you think about them and oh, your mood changes just to think about them. Someone mentions their name. Maybe it was a mutual friend and they say their name and you're just like, oh, all over again. Or maybe it's a parent and it's Mother's Day and your mother was physically abusive. And every time Mother's Day rolls around, you're angry all over again. Someone said it's just like they call it letting somebody rent space in your head who you again don't even like. Um, are you gonna let them have that space? Or are you going to say, yeah, you were abusive, but I'm not going to let you still abuse me by you continuing to have that space in my head? I'm not going to just let it go. We'll talk about ways to decrease it, but it's not about just, oh, I'm going to let it go. No, you're not. It may have been there for years. Maybe you were abused for years as a child, and as an adult, um, you're still feeling the hurt. The physical pain of that abuse may not be there, but the emotional is. So when you don't forgive, as I said, physically it's messing up you. Psychologically, that unforgiveness can lead toward depression as well. Some other things that can happen with holding all of this: heart disease, diabetes, and other conditions. Now, it's like, now how am I going to get diabetes from unforgiveness? Well, part of it is the unhealthy things you're doing to yourself. And maybe you're not taking care of yourself in extreme cases. You have so much unforgiveness, so much hurt that you don't take care of yourself, not appropriately. I'll give you this example I use a lot, just about the negative feelings you have and negative energy, I like to call it. Let's say you walk into a room and it's a birthday party of a 1 or 2 year old. It's a baby, they're so cute. Everybody's having a good time, and really that 1 year old birthday party is for the adults because the 1 year old has no clue, but everyone's having a great time and they're tearing open the gifts, they're eating the cake with their hand, and everybody just feels good in that environment because it's just a light, happy attitude, a light, happy atmosphere. That's situation one. Situation two, you walk into a room and people have been arguing. You think you hear arguing, and they stop and they just look at you. You see their faces. You feel the tension. Now, in situation one, you felt the joy. In situation two, you felt the tension. There was energy, there was a feeling of just being in that room. Well, when you're holding on to unforgiveness, that negative feeling that was in situation two, that's that same feeling you're putting inside your body, that negative energy. Because every time you think of this person, every time you think, but they abused me, they hurt me, she started dating my boyfriend, and now they're married and they're living a better life than I am. No, I can't forgive her. And every time you think of her, you get angry all over again, and that anger leads toward resentment, leads toward high blood pressure because of the negative things. So it can have all of those physiological effects because they get on your nerves. And I'm not saying you don't have a right to be angry. You do. You were hurt, but you don't have a right to stay that way and hurt your own self, is what I'm saying. Um, and there are some situations where you may not even get the opportunity to have a discussion about forgiveness. Maybe they are so far out of your life that a conversation is not going to happen. That doesn't mean that you still don't need to forgive them. You still need to put yourself in a place where you can forgive them to what? Free yourself. They've gone on with their life. Typically, that person that you're holding on to all the anger, they're going on with their life. Even the abusive parent, they're going on with their life. Now, in some cases, the person is literally gone on and they're no longer alive. You can't go talk to them about forgiveness because they're physically not here, or the person is so far removed from your life, they're not going to have it. Or you might try to have that conversation and like, really, you still bothered by that? Totally discounting who you are, which was one of those things, in that list of they just don't see you. So what do you do then? Well, as I said, it is about you. So if you never have the opportunity to talk to them about forgiveness and saying, you know what, I forgive you for hurting me. And if you do make that call, what do you mean you forgive me for hurting you? They may say you sound silly. It may be it's mom growing up, you were an abusive mother. I still have the scars to show it, and I forgive you. Hmm. Fine, that's on you. What if they don't accept it? Or what if they do? And you forge a new relationship and you change the way family looks. Or what if it's just something someone said once that hurt so bad you couldn't let it go? And it's 10 years later. It was something a sibling said that hurt so deeply. And remember, they're going on with their life. They're living their life and um, don't even know they hurt you because you never said it. And 10 years later, you're still hurt by it. So maybe it's time maybe you talk to them, or maybe you say, I'm going to release myself from this pain. I am not going to let myself feel this pain anymore. I am going to move forward, whether you accept what I'm having to say or not. So some conversations are not to be had. The other part of forgiveness that some people think that, well, if I forgive them, that means they have to be in my life. No, they don't. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I forgive you and I take you back in my life. Let's say it was an abusive situation and you forgive the abuser because you don't want to hold that hate and that hurt in. and they still have the potential to be an abusive person, why would you continue that? No, this, as I said, is about you. And from a Christian perspective, forgiveness is about your relationship with God, not about your relationship with the other person. It is about you being forgiving because God has forgiven you. So you don't have to have them back in your life because that same person may be, um, they may still have the same behavior. So sometimes you have to remove them from your life or remove yourself from their lives because it's like, oh no, this is not going to happen. I can't be there. And that's fine. They don't have to be in your life. You don't have to be in theirs. But you don't have to hold on to the anger that put them there. There is a statement that says forgiveness is the best form of love. It takes a strong person to say, I'm sorry, and even a stronger person to forgive. That person might not be strong enough to forgive you. That strong enough not be strong enough to accept what you're saying. That's fine. It's not about them. It is about you. Be able to free yourself and say, I love me enough not to have this negative energy inside of me, like I talked about with the birthday party versus the angry couple. Which do you want inside of you? Which of those is going to generate better physical health for you? Because if you have all that negative energy, negative feelings inside of your body, that's where the headaches come in. That's where the blood pressure rising comes in and all the things that happen as a result of that domino effect. So forgiving those family members, and remember that is the deepest kind of hurt because you family, you're part of me. We share blood, we share DNA, and you could hurt me like that. We share blood, we share DNA, and you could abuse me like that. But I'm no longer going to give the hate and the forgiveness power over me. Not the other person, but the hate and the forgiveness. So how do you do that? One, you can develop some positive communication with this person. Now, here's the key. Positive communication in this sense also would include, but I'm not going to communicate with you because it's not going to be positive. I know I don't have the ability right now to communicate with you positively. So, you know what? We're just not going to communicate. I'm going to forgive you, but I'm not going to continue to engage in dialogue that is not going to help. Dialogue that's only going to hurt the situation. I'm not going to engage in that. Cool. So you decide that you want to do something different. Or you can decide, you know what? Maybe I had a little role in this and I need to change how I communicate. And maybe you work toward that. Um, Then set appropriate boundaries. That's part of the communication. I can communicate with you, or I can be around you in certain situations, not others. Have your own personal boundaries, and that's just in general. We all need to work on our boundaries to protect ourselves. So, this is part of that protection. Another one is develop new norms for yourself. As I said, the norm might be, let's say it's a family member, and you know what? I can't do these family situations because they're going to be there. Okay, don't. Find a new way to manage life with those who you have in common. Figure out where you need to be. Forgive them. Maybe not put yourself in that same situation. Move forward and protect who you are. And over time, when you have forgiven them, you might find a way to be in their presence. Then I'm not saying have a relationship. I'm saying be in their presence. Totally different thing. But you do what you need to do to heal yourself, forgive them, and maybe you're going to be the person who's the model to help change some of the behavior they have. Now, before I told you we're ending early, but before I do, what if you're the person who was the offender? What if you know you've offended someone in your family? We're speaking just about family, and this could be anyone in general, but what if you were the offender? What if you were the abusive parent? What if you were the absentee parent? What if you were the parent who divorced the child and not just your mate? And you know that your actions negatively impacted them. And it's years later and you haven't talked. Do you have the ability to go and say, "Forgive me"? As I said, forgiveness is the best form of love. It takes a strong person to say, "Forgive me." Are you strong enough if you are the offender? What if you unknowingly offended a family member? Maybe it was a parent and your child feels offended. What can you do? Can you have a conversation? Um, you could be the I don't know why you feel that way. But if you just say that, well, fine, you're discounting them. But could you say, you know, I understand you say you really feel as if I treated you unfairly. I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. Forgive me. Let's talk about it. And that's a hard place to be. And we're not responsible for the other person's feelings, so you're not responsible for why they may feel that way. But if you're the parent and you're in that situation, it's a conversation to have. What if you were the child and you were, for your own reasons, not nice to the parent? Maybe you were embarrassed because, you all were poor and mom had to work and such. And mom was doing everything she could to keep a roof over your head and did, and you're still alive, but you were embarrassed. How do you go back and apologize to mom and say, I realize you were doing the best you could with what you had? That's where that positive communication comes in. Be willing to be vulnerable. And when you're talking about forgiveness, it involves vulnerability. You have to be in a point where you can put yourself in a position to say, maybe I was wrong, or put yourself in a position to discuss your hurt. Now, as I said, you can't always do that. With some people, it's not going to happen. You are not going to be able to say, um, you hurt me and I want to discuss it because they'll continue to hurt you. Know it and be positive. But even that same person, forgive them and free yourself up. Free yourself from the burden of hate. Hate is too heavy a burden to bear, which is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. It is. And so when you're holding on to the hate from this other person, don't do it. Um, wow, I said tonight it was supposed to be about 30 minutes. We were going to end a little early just for some personal reasons. But I felt it was still an important topic to address. As I said, especially in the holidays, we're going to be around family more, or maybe those close friends who are like family, people who have hurt us. So I end with that call to action. Our call to action is free yourself. If you have any unforgiveness, free yourself up from the unforgiveness. Don't let the abuser, the offender, rent space in your head, and you hold on to it. Let it go. If you were the abusive person, ask for forgiveness. Humble yourself and ask them for forgiveness. It's okay. You can free yourself. If you were the offender, you free yourself up as well by asking them to forgive you. And if they say no, you let that go too. Because again, this is about you. Um, Finally, just look at your relationships, evaluate them. When possible, love your family. I understand that because some unforgiveness is not possible, but work on loving you so you can love them. And lastly, as always, vote, vote, vote. Voting is so important. So, how does voting have to do with this? Well, laws can be impacted that impact your family. So, vote, vote, vote. So, as we go through the holiday season, and you have to deal with family. If it's not in a loving manner, if there's forgiveness that needs to happen, forgive. If there's hate that needs to be diminished, let it go. Free yourself from the burden of hate. It's much too far, much to carry. Well, I am Bronwyn Lucas, the transformational therapist, here to help you become a better you. If you are in need of mental health help, reach out. My website is ablecc.org, and you can contact me that way. I might not be the therapist for you. I'll help you find someone who can help you. See you next week. Bye.